Hello, this is Stephen, webmaster for PetGroomer.com. This is another fireside chat, a simple one today. Not going to be throwing around a lot of numbers and complicated planning and all. But this is an interesting one that it's subtle and yet so important. In fact, it can change the whole way that you plan your career in grooming or make changes for it. What do we call this? Grooming in the zone, the mental art of grooming. One thing's for certain, there is a mindset for art that is different from a mindset of a lot of workers in an environment such as a retail store, such as even a kennel or a daycare with grooming. Certainly veterinarian clinics that may have a groomer. Who's got the most different mindset? The artist. Who's the artist? The pet groomer. Practical issues for sure, but they are an artist. They also know they're being judged for their art. Now, who do they have to please? Themselves. That's number one. They want to please themselves, but of course, the person paying the money for the services they provide. So we have the pet owner. Now, we don't need to add more judgment onto them. See, it's this creative environment, and judgment can really cut the flow of those creative juices. And that's what we've got flowing in the zone. We've got creative juices. And that's where a groomer wants to stay, is in this focus where it's the fun and they're doing their work precisely without distraction. Distraction will come from the environment and the people in the environment. Therefore, let's look at the environment. The environment can be as simple, contained, as a mobile grooming van. And in fact, some mobile groomers, that's exactly what they want. No distraction from people. They can shut off their phones and just take messages. About the only thing that can happen is someone just might come up and knock on the van door, and that would be a distraction. Other than that, there is no distraction, and those groomers who enjoy that environment have chosen mobile grooming in part probably to have that zone that allows them to stay creative and focused and efficient and in tune with the pet and what they're doing. Now, a groomer that's in a large, busy shop has other people in that environment. They have other noise in that environment. They have cars in a parking lot, perhaps. They have people ringing up things on registers, or you can just imagine incoming, outcoming, traffic, a flow of people. So that can be distracted to certain groomers, and that to the point that it affects their being able to stay in the zone. So, but some will actually still thrive on the busyness around them and will choose that environment still fine, and perhaps grooming in a van is still a little bit too lonely for them. So we can see that there's no right or wrong with the zone. It's, do you know your zone? A couple ways that I work with this on a regular basis is trying to explain to people that own businesses, who, especially those that are not groomers, is that, are you providing a zone, a positive zone for your groomers, to where what we did was to not provide any reason for distraction to our stylists, especially the finest artists there. Each had their own workstation, of course, but what we took off of them is they never had to answer the phone. They never had to, on a regular day, go up to the front counter and talk with their clientele. The owner of the business owned the clientele. We managed it. We owned it. Those were our clients. But absolutely, they were placed such that they would see the owners of the pets, they could say, hello, how do you still like the groom? So they were still staged, and they were getting what artists enjoy, feedback, and that acknowledgement, that which is better than the word judgment, but it's an acknowledgement you did something right. Thank you. You did the little miracle makeover on my pet, and there's that interaction. But then they can go right back knowing I have my zone here that provides me with the space that I enjoy for grooming pets. Excuse me. So, management in general doesn't differentiate that the clerical workers are employees like groomers. No, there is no comparison there. The salespeople and a groomer are two very different kind of people. In fact, the most different people, no matter where you go, pretty much are those groomers. They're working artists who are not in their studio, who are not like the impressionists, say, going out on a nice day and working in nature away from distractions. No, that's not who they are, yet they are still artists. And artists like to have control of an environment that helps them create their art, and that is conducive to not even distracting the pet for practicality. So we've talked about the mobile groomer has a quite contained, controlled environment of their own. Now, does it really help? You bet. It's just perhaps some people haven't realized it. But if you study artists over the years, you will find those that absolutely were loners and wanted to do their art alone. And they would go wherever they had to, if it was outdoors, if it was into a room, whatever. Well, that gets a little bit hard, doesn't it, if you're a one-person business, non-mobile, because you do have traffic coming in off the street. You do have the telephone calls. You have returning customers, perhaps. So you have to learn how to go out of the zone, which is far different than working one-on-one with a person. You are lost in depth with the length of the coat, the color, it's parting here, the color, perhaps these curls, and I'm doing the blade to here, and all of a sudden someone comes in and they want to know, how much do you charge and what days of the week and whatever. That's a different character. That's a different personality. That's a different zone. There is a zone for dealing with customers, but that's far different than the artist zone over here that's dealing with all the demands of producing the artwork on the pet. So it is quite mental. It's so mental, in fact, that it's, believe me, there's even science that's going on today. Have you ever heard of Kirlian photography? Kirlian photography is quite real. The band of light that is around all objects is quite real, including plants. Kirlian photography has been around, well, at least 3 decades I know of. And you can take pictures and see the electromagnetic spectrum around most objects. It's there. In fact, there's the paranormal part where how come if someone loses an arm and you take a picture of it, you still see an arm. It's missing, but the electromagnetic spectrum is still there. Well, we're not going to go that far with our zones today, but realize that does exist. There is a spectrum of light that goes around. What's interesting how this applies to grooming is they can tell sometimes now, leading edge theorists are finding out that they can examine that light and tell when someone is quite centric focused by looking and examining the Kirlian photography. It's very leading edge knowledge that that's happening, but it does show you that something's going on when we become in this zone and you're shutting out everything. Now, all of you have done that. Anyone ever drive a car and maybe 5-10 minutes has gone by and you come back, you were off thinking about who knows what, But you say to yourself, gee, but I really wasn't, wow, I hope I wasn't unsafe. I mean, I wasn't really fully paying attention to my driving, but I seem to have been driving just fine. That's a zone. There's an experience right there, that there are different states of mind that life is about. Art is one different kind of state of mind. It's focus. Now, when my mother wrote the book From Problems to Profits, we hired a excellent self-publisher assistant for us who happened to be a great editor. In fact, when his doctoral thesis was done at a university in Florida, do you know they then go in and edit and perfect those things? They didn't make one grammar change to his thesis. It was done. He was excellent. But what I learned through working with him was to watch him edit our book. And I'm not exaggerating. I would watch him spend 4 hours on a page easily, just working on the words, the grammar, the structure, the thought structure of what was being communicated. And he didn't want to be bothered. That's how in-depth. Now, some programmers know that. I program web pages. When I'm in the HTML, the language, or the XML languages, and then all of a sudden I have to go out and, the UPS drivers here, it's like I'm still seeing strings of code. See, different mental state from a different interaction, mental state with others, with other humans. That's the most distracting. So we know that these other states of mind do exist, and there are particular ones for artists. Groomers are those artists. So we can actually learn to better manage them by understanding where they're at and what they need to do the best work. And you may even find that you saying, I don't want to have employees, you might find some that just get 2 or 3 employees that find they enjoy their work better because they don't have to answer the phone. They don't have to go up to the front counter. Again, perfect. That's choice. It's up to you. But that's one way to stay in your zone, because probably the most fun you ever have in grooming, not only getting the rewards and of all the joy when you from the pet owner, oh, you did a beautiful job, and that's a good feeling, and the dog's happy, everyone's happy when the pet's dancing and it looks beautiful. Yeah. But during that time, it's your joy can be, as a groomer, the joy of that performance, doing that. You can't always enjoy that if you're just having all these distractions. And again, it's what I want to teach managers of businesses. You got to treat these stylists, these groomers, in a different way to understand the nature of their mind. Provide them with that zone. Let them stay in that zone. Let them produce. Their productivity will go up. Productivity doesn't mean that you're working faster. It means you're not distracting them. That's usually, yes, there's things to learn about using the clippers right, using the shears right, all these inside secrets that we learn and that increases productivity. But reducing distraction is the biggest increase, that factor for grooming. So what's going to be fun in the remainder of this year, 2010, maybe in 2011, I'll have all the floor plans out that I've talked about a lot at Grooming Business in a Box. We've added some changes for grooming in the zone. That's all I'll say about that. It's going to be very interesting. You've got to look at yourself and say, this is where I like to work in a zone. There are definitely gregarious ones who they couldn't work alone. They love all that. Let's go now. Great, they're gregarious. Then there's the kind, no, even if I get a little lonely, I want my space where I can just focus without distraction, and I'm in control of it. Perfect in mobile grooming sometimes, and certain even house call groomers, when the owners aren't there, may enjoy that, whatever. It's just that look at the different types of grooming, look at who you are, and see what you like. There's focus on no matter what is important to get the work done right. There are certain days that if I have to do something on even the website, I go, I am not in that state of mind to do that focus, or I know there's going to be too many distractions coming in that day from a visitor that's coming by, and an appointment's going to happen, and whatever, the landlord's going to come by, whatever, and I just go, I won't put myself through that. There is a stress factor involved. Because some people get to the point, it's like, I want to stay in my zone. And I don't blame you. That is the way artists often feel when they really know what they're all about and they start self-examining their focus. One thing that might be fun, we just saw the Karate Kid came out again, which reminded me of the first Karate Kid. Go back, I'm just going to give you a little hint of something. If you may remember that the young boy in the first Karate Kid was told to, when he was wiping, cleaning things, to use the right hand and go this direction, and then clean with the left hand in this direction. So one could be clockwise, one could be counterclockwise. There's multiple reasons for that. Of course, building body dexterity, not being just right-handed, but equally as good with your left-handed. Yes, there was more than that. The mind tends to focus into focusing down through a tunnel. And what they'll find in that is movement is one part is clockwise, one part is counterclockwise. They'll actually study the electromagnetic spectrum, and this is really leading edge. But I thought that was really interesting. I didn't realize that one, only from current studies now. That could be part of the focus. You will try it, put your hand in front of you and go counterclockwise, put the other hand going clockwise. So they're going in opposite, and you can get a little bit mesmerized. Well, right brain, left brain. We're bridging the brain to one brain. There's a lot of, they call that bicameral studies. So focus is a function of the brain. And the artistic side of us requires focus. We learn to adapt to distractive environments. We learn whether it's people or the environment. But exercise your choice. This is a mental art. Is your space providing what you need to maintain whatever focus it is that you like while you're grooming? It's an important concept to think about. We're here, we got into this for the joy of working with pets, but now, as you become self-employed, especially, and have that control, you can even create the environment to give you the type of zone around you that reflects you and says, I just love, I'm going to do this standard today, and I won't be bothered. I just want to get lost in it. That's great. That's understandable. That's artist. You have the control. Look at the different kinds of grooming business opportunities that are out there, from mobile, small shop, larger shop, with getting employees so you can be left alone. And then later on, keep in contact with us. We're going to start showing you floor plan designs and things for that. It's really great creative stuff. So here's to being in the zone, whatever it is for you, that augments your grooming and the